like what is like your goal for characters? Like what do you want people to get out of, your stories when it comes to the characters?
Yeah, I think it's different. And I think it's an interesting question because both of these series that I wrote have different tones. And I think that character development really needs to match the tone of your novel. Um,
Totally.
and so in the first series, it's much more realistic and much grittier. And so in the first series, the characters are dealing with a lot darker problems and they're
Mhm.
dealing with, like in a sense, obviously like the rise of a Nazi regime is a pretty dark problem, but the
Yeah.
tone is in such a way, like if it's a grimdark story, like there's a lot of morally gray choices that they have to make, which you wouldn't force onto someone in an adventure comedy. Um, you don't have that like Sophie's Choice moment in something that's like a silly adventure comedy.
Yeah.
And so I think that really influences how you develop the characters. You want them to be deep and well-rounded and interesting, um, and but you don't have to express that in the same way. So I think a big part of that is I want to do all the same things and all the stories as far as drilling into like what people are motivated to do, what
Yeah, yeah.
sacrifices they're willing to make in order to meet those goals, and the histories that they bring into things I think are so much more important than a lot of people really give that credit for. So my
Yeah.
goal is dependent on what the series requires. So for instance, like the this is this is less true of like the main characters because I think the main characters need to be pretty well fleshed out in all regards. But for instance, in Dragonreich, I'm not really interested in humanizing the Nazi figures that much. Go figure.
Yeah, sure.
Because the tone of the story is different and what it's trying to accomplish is a little bit different. Like the first book is grimdark and it's really like delving in to the self a little more and what you would do in like an unthinkable situation. Like how dark can you become when you are faced with the most horrible options in the world, which is not the same goal as when you are writing this adventure fantasy where there's a much more clear good and evil. So, for instance, in Dragonreich series, the bad guys are a little more caricatured. They
Mm.
still have backstories. They still have unique motivations that don't always align perfectly with the overall goals of the Thule Society, which is like the secret cabal of dragon supremacists. But they are not. I don't ever try to put you in their shoes enough that you're empathizing with
Mm.
why they are making the decisions that they're making.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
part of that comes from my own moral perspective, where there's a certain point where it doesn't matter if you are traumatized, it doesn't matter what happened in your background to make you make the choices that you're making. If your choices are egregiously evil enough and harmful
Yeah,
enough,
yeah.
it's crossed over a threshold where it's counterproductive to try to connect with you in a way that will bring me down to your level. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's a little bit part of it. But as far as characters in general go, I want people to like them. I think in the first series that I wrote, I wanted people to be fascinated more with them. And I wanted people to just be like, yeah, like what would I do if like I was in this spot where
Mhm.
there was like these three things that I could do and all of them were just awful. Like which choice would I make? Um, and I think that honestly, like it just didn't reach as many readers as I wanted it to. Like some people love that shit. Like some people eat it up, but a lot of people, when they're faced with a character who is like consistently sometimes abrasive, sometimes selfish, making these choices like that. They're not as likable, and that's just not as wide of a reach. That's part of why I made this shift to a different series, as I wanted to
Mm.
find something that connected with more people. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that that's a big focus, and I think that it's been really eye-opening and really exciting. And I feel like I'm getting a lot better at that specific point because I made a point of kind of studying, like, okay, well, what is it that makes a reader like totally invested in this character. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of different things, but one a really big important part is that like they want to love this person, they want to like fight for this person, they want to be like staying up too late like because they're worried something bad is going to happen to them.